Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jeremy Barras from Temple Beth here in Pinecrest, and I'm delighted to share with you some thoughts on this week's Torah portion, Parashat Emor. Right now, Jews around the world have been counting down the days from Pesach to Shavuot in what we call counting the Omer, and in Parashat Emor, we learn about what it means and what the commandment is to count the Omer, to count those 50 days from when the Israelites left the land of Egypt until they got to Mount Sinai and received the Torah. And so we might think that this is a very happy time. This is a time where we're counting down each day and considering the cosmic significance and the power of what each of those days means in the journey that the Israelites made physically from Egypt to Mount Sinai, but also the spiritual journey they made and the spiritual journey that we make every year when Passover ends and we make our way towards Shavuot, when we remember Kabbalat Torah, the reception of Torah on Mount Sinai. However, we know that there are restrictions in Jewish laws to the things that we're allowed to do during the counting of the Omer, and that this is actually a very sad time. And the reason is because of what the Gemara teaches us, that the 12,000 pairs of students in the day of Rabbi Akiva, about 1900 years ago, they all died. There was a terrible tragedy in which the greatest sages, the students of Rabbi Akiva, one of the greatest sages of the entire Talmudic period, all of them, for a reason that the Gemara and the Midrash explain, began to die in huge numbers, to the point where all 12,000 pairs of these students die. And so the question is why? Well, one of the things we learn from Rabbi Akiva is what the greatest mitzvah is in the Torah, what he considered Klal Gadol b'Torah, one of the most fundamental and basic ideas of the Torah, which is V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, and you shall love your neighbor like yourself. And it was precisely these students, the students of Rabbi Akiva, who should have known this lesson better than others, better than anyone, weren't treating each other with respect. So the rabbis ask, how could this possibly be? How could the students of Rabbi Akiva, who taught and preached, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha is the Klal Gadol b'Torah, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself is the great mitzvah of the Torah, how could they treat each other without respect? And the answer that we find amongst the Meforshim, amongst the commentators who think about this is, they did treat each other with respect. They loved each other. They spent all their time together. But what didn't they do? They didn't respect each other's Torah. And why not? Because each one said, here I am learning from the great Rabbi Akiva. What do I need you for? What do I need to listen to Devar Torah of anyone else? I'm learning directly from the source, from Rabbi Akiva. The Midrash compares this to fish. When fish are underneath the water, they have all the water that they could possibly imagine. But still sometimes you see that the fish will jump up when it's raining and try to get the drops that are coming down. So you might say, why would they want to get the drops that are coming down when they're already surrounded by water everywhere they look? And the answer is because to the fish, water is life. And to the fish, every single drop has something special. What Rabbi Akiva's students didn't realize was, of course they learn great Torah from Rabbi Akiva, but there was also great Torah to be learned from everyone around them. And that every drop of Torah and every Jew has something to teach and to learn from each other. And because they gave up on learning from each other, they ended up succumbing to this great plague where we lost all of them. It's up to us to remember that today, not only do we learn from our rabbis and our teachers, but we should look at each other and recognize that each one of us has something worthwhile to teach, and we must be receptive to hearing that. I hope you have a wonderful week as we celebrate together on our way towards Shavuot.